Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And we have a new headset set up. It's weird. Welcome to our Game of Thrones review. This last episode was called
The Spoils of War.
Spoils of War. And I have to turn it down because the echo is killing me. Spoils of War. And so this is the shortest episode ever of the Game of Thrones, and there was a ton of stuff that happened in this episode, probably more than we've had anything else far this season.
Well, yeah, was a lot.
There's a lot. So we'll do this thing. It's a spoiler-filled review. We're giving you a chance to go back if you don't want to go back. And, oh, by the way, hashtag Cold Beer Sunday. And so with the shortest episode called The Spoils of War, and, oh, by the way, we only have 3 episodes left this season. And we have new shirts coming. We'll have them ready for the last episode.
Right.
All right. So here we go. Spoiler review, Game of Thrones. Ready?
Yes. Okay. So we begin with the Lannister army leaving High Garden with all the gold that they took after Jaime came in and wiped everybody out.
Borrowed.
No. There's nobody left.
No.
They killed everybody. They actually talk about that. Bronn is like, hey, I'd like a castle. That one's empty.
Yeah.
So they've got a huge wagon full of gold. They're now going to repay the Iron Bank. So that's good for the Lannisters, right? And then Jaime has a conversation with the Tullys, with Dickard.
Okay, I don't like Daddy Tully. He just he annoys me.
No, he's an ass.
He is an ass.
Yeah.
I like his other son, not Sam, but Dickard.
Dickard.
I like him.
Yeah. Sam and Dickard.
Dickard.
Anyway.
Whatever.
So Jaime tells him, hey, we need to go get some of the crops for food, because otherwise, King's Landing is gonna starve, right? If they don't get some food for the long winter and the
siege.
Wars, the siege.
The siege is coming that they know.
That's about to come. So he sends Bronn off with the Tullys after he gives him a bag of silver. Didn't appear to be gold. Bronn says, hey, I'd like this castle. He says, there'll be plenty when we're done. Sends him off with the Tullys. Bronn wasn't too happy about that. To gather up the crops. So then we go to Littlefinger in Bran's room. Right? Bran's got a spiffy new wheelchair made of wood.
Yeah.
And Littlefinger's in his room. He's got a dagger. It's a Valyrian steel dagger, which is a big deal because those can kill the Nightwalkers. And this is the dagger that was used to for the attempt on Brendan's
Bran's his life. Right.
So he
and they showed that in the previously on the Game of Thrones to kind of remind you. Oh, by the way, there's this dagger, and that's from season 2, season 3, something like that. It's a ways back.
Yeah, it might even be 1.
But it's a hint of what was going to come in the episode.
Right. And it's also, I believe, the dagger that killed his mom. So that dagger's been around. It's got a bit of a history with the Starks. So he gives it to him, and you can tell, as per usual, Littlefinger's working the program. He's got something going on, and he makes a comment about chaos to Bran, and Bran says, "Chaos is a ladder," which is the exact same thing that Littlefinger said to Sansa,
and
last
previous episode, right?
Yeah, when he was talking about put that out of your mind, or if you relive everything, or you're living every possible outcome and everything that's happening now and happened before, and
that so you can plan and you can put yourself in the right position and everything.
Yeah,
and we we watched it on a tape delay. It was like maybe 15 minutes behind. And we went back and watched that scene like 3 or 4 times to make sure that we actually understood that that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Was he actually saying that chaos is a ladder? Because Littlefinger's face, like, I'm happy and I'm working the program, and then you can just see like this, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, look on his face.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how did Bran know this? He
Right.
said this to Sansa.
Right, totally. And
I think before Bran even showed up, he said this to Sansa.
And it totally, like, I won't say freaked Littlefinger out, but it definitely put him back.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the first time that happened in this episode.
Yeah. Well, and, he's been going around telling everybody, I'm the three-eyed raven, and they're all like, okay, whatever. I don't even know what that means.
Brand, yeah.
And so slowly but surely, he's been saying things to pretty much everyone that they're like, how do you know that?
Right.
So,
right.
Let's see. I don't even know. I don't even know my notes. So Arya comes to Winterfell, which dispels kind of a rumor or a lot of speculation. There was a lot of speculation as to whether she was going to come home, whether she would, meet Jon on the way, meet the Hound on the way,
right.
Turn around and just go find Cersei.
I thought for the longest time that she was going to run into the Hound on the way back to Winterfell, yeah. And with the Brothers Without Banners, and join up with them, and then go to Winterfell, and then that ended up not happening. She comes over the crest, and Winterfell's sitting there. It's like all out of the blue all of a sudden, and it's like,
because we haven't seen her for a while.
Well, we didn't see her at all last episode, and in the episode before was when she was with Pie, Hot Pie, when she found out that Jon had become King of the North, and her decision to go to Winterfell and go home because Jon was there, and she didn't know that Bran was there, and she didn't know that Sansa was there. So, like, her coming up over the ridge, and she's looking at it, and I'm like, oh my God, she went home. She actually made the decision, and she's there without running into or catching up with anybody else.
Yeah.
And it was
So that was so that was an interesting entrance, right? So she tries to get in, and the guards are like, yeah, right, you're not Arya Stark. Arya Stark's dead. And she's like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm not dead. And so, she starts asking for Godfrey and the Maester. I don't remember what his name was, but they're
Roger?
Maybe Roderick
or something like that. Yeah, start with an R.
But they're all dead, right? Yeah. That was when oh my God, I can't remember his name ever. Ramsay. When Ramsay,
dude, he's like the coolest guy has been on the whole fucking show.
Know. I've done that twice where I can't remember freaking Ramsay's name. Anyway, when Ramsay stormed the castle or took over, he killed all those people. Right. So they're like, I don't even know who that person is. And so she's like, okay, so Jon Snow, and they're like, yeah, the king's 1,000 miles from here. And still laughing at her and tell her to fuck off. And
like multiple times they told her to fuck off, and I was like, she's like, I'm gonna whoop your ass.
And she's like, okay, so Jon's not gonna leave this place unprotected. Who's here? Well, the lady of Winterfell. And she's like, and that is? And he's like, well, if you're a Stark, you should know who that is. And she's like, okay, tell Sansa that I'm here. And they're like, I'm not going to go bother Sansa or whatever. And she's like, okay, so here's the deal. You're, either going to let me in, and what could I possibly do? Or you're going to turn me away. And imagine how pissed off Sansa's going to be when she finds out you turned her sister away. And they're like, okay, all right. So they let her in, and they make her sit down, and one guy's supposed to be gardener, and the other guy's supposed to be going to get Sansa, and they're arguing, and they turn around, and she's gone.
It's totally the scene from Pirates of the Caribbean where the two guards are arguing with each other, and Jack runs off and steals the ship. That's like, I expected her to like just show up in the guard tower, like, but that's not where she ended up going. She ended up going somewhere else.
Yeah. So Sansa they go to her and they're like, we don't know who this person was, but we'll find her. Don't worry.
We'll take care of it. We're those important guard guys at the gate who have one job on the show.
And you'll never see again.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I know where she went. So she goes down to the mausoleum, and Arya's standing in front of the, I assume it's the tomb. I guess they brought his body back, but it's Eddard Stark's.
It's at least the
statue.
It's at least a statue of him. Like you said, I don't know if it's actually his body encased or whatever at that point, but it's at least him, and they make a big deal about saying it doesn't look like him. They should have gotten somebody who had seen his face, and then Sansa says
they're all dead.
They're all dead, and it ends up being like, well, we're the only ones left alive who've seen Dad's face, and so it was kind of like this sombering moment when this joyous moment was kind of going on.
Yeah,
there was that moment of, hey, I'm really happy that you're here, kind of thing, but then, oh yeah, Dad's dead, kind of thing. So because they haven't seen each other since
he died,
right?
And that was another kind of speculation was to how that was gonna go, because Arya completely blamed Sansa. She was the reason why he was there, and why he got killed. So she completely blamed Sansa. Sansa was kind of a twat when she was younger before she had experiences. So but
before
they
she had
hugged.
Life.
They big hug, and then they kind of stood around and were looking over Dad's memorial, and talking, and they kind of danced around it a little bit, and then they were like, well, yeah, I've seen some things, and not all good, and that Sansa said
the same thing.
Arya said the same thing. Yeah. So that'll be an interesting story to tell. I don't know that we have time for them to.
Not with 3 episodes left.
Share,
there's not going to be 3 episodes left where they could sit down and have that talk, because that talk's going to be like a 20-minute talk about, oh yeah, guess what?
No, that's going to be like a 4-hour talk.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and hug again, right? So it wasn't just But
it wasn't Sansa who engaged. Sansa engaged it the first time, and then Arya engaged it the second time, which was kind of an indication, at least for me, that they both were willing to let stuff go and be in the moment.
Yeah, they were just happy to see each other.
And be happy for each other and be there with each other. And Arya wasn't really going to blame her, at least at that point in time. Now, it might come up later, but at least in that point in time, she wasn't going to blame her for what happened to their dad. But it was a big deal that one engaged the hug the first time, and then the other one engaged the hug the second time.
Yeah.
So that acceptance of each other was a big deal.
Yeah, and I think that they're actually both have had so much happen to them that they're probably past that. They've grown up.
Right.
But I guess we'll see. So then Sansa tells Arya, hey, Bran's here.
Hey, by the way, Jon's not here. He's fucking ditched us. That's not what happened, but that's.
So they go find Bran in his spiffy new wheelchair out by the tree, and he kind of pulls a typical three-eyed raven on her and says, yeah, I saw you at the crossroads. And she's like, what? You saw me? And and in the mausoleum, Arya had said something about her list of people she was going to kill, and there was kind of a little bit of a tense moment. They both looked at each other, and then Sansa started laughing, and so Arya's laughing, and then Bran's like, I saw you at the crossroads, and Sansa's like, why were you at the crossroads? And he's like, well, she was going to go to King's Landing because
kill Cersei's on her list.
Cersei was there. Cersei's on her list, and Sansa's like, oh wait, that she wasn't joking. That list is real.
I did like Sansa's reaction. She did the whole like, oh my god, the list is real. Oh my god, Bran actually can see stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my god. And there was a pause, and she kind of grinned. She goes, who else is on your list?
Yeah.
Like that kind of inquisitive, like, oh, we have a list? Oh, maybe we need to talk, sister. Because it was like that whole, like, it was like, in the whole, that whole shot of Sansa. We'll talk about the cinematography in a minute, but Sansa, Sansa, Jesus Christ, fucking names, Sansa. That whole realization of everything only took like a couple of seconds, but it was impactful for her to. It was like a learning moment for her almost. To sit there and say, "Oh, Bran can see stuff. Mm-hmm. Oh, Arya does have a list. Oh, I need to figure out who's on that list." Like that whole thing, and there was no words. It was just her face, like changing expressions, and then they went on.
And then Arya's like, "Oh, they're mostly dead."
Yeah.
Sansa's kind of like, "Huh, I wonder who killed them."
Yeah.
So then we go to Dragon's Stand, and no one's sullied yet, and so there's some conversation about where they're at and what happened, and Dany's like, "They'll be here, they'll be home, whatever," and so
he's coming home to you. Dany said to what is her name? I cannot. All the names in the show, and we can't keep track with all of them.
I have it, Missandei.
Missandei. So Dany says to Missandei, he's coming home to you.
Yeah.
And then there's like that girlfriend kind of moment, like, so what happened? You know, and she's like, what? What do you mean what happened? And Dany's like, tell me what happened.
And then they cut to Jon, who was walking up the beach, which was a little weird because, like, they're having this, you know, oh, tell me what happened, and then cut to Jon, which normally would be like this is her
there's a
thing.
There's a thing, yeah.
And that's you. I know they do that in this show,
but they don't know. They don't know.
Oh, so it was okay when Leia kissed Luke.
It's because they were gonna die. We've been over this 1,000 times.
So Jon takes Dany into the cave where they're getting ready to mine the dragon glass, and he starts showing her around. And when this started happening, I was like, this might not be a good idea, because you kind of get the idea that it's going to be, you know, beautiful, or there's going to be some big reveal, which there was, not what I was expecting, but and I kept waiting for her to go, oh, well, we can't destroy this. This is beautiful.
Right.
And
right.
there to be something, you know,
right.
Upheaval or whatever over that. That's not what it was. There was, yes, it was beautiful. That was cool. But he's like, oh, I need to show you something else. And so there's hieroglyphs or whatever. There's cave drawings. And she's like, oh, wow, these are so old. And he's like, yeah, the forest people are
the children of the forest.
Yeah. Are the ones who carved this. And she's like, oh, wow, so that was before man. And he's like, well, no. And so he shows her another one, and there's man. And she's like, oh, well, did the humans kill the children of the forest? They
were fighting against each other or something like that. She made a point of like pointing out that they should have been fighting against each other, kind of thing.
Right.
Not necessarily that they worked together. They fought against each other.
Right. Well, right. Yeah, maybe because they're not here anymore or
right.
whatever. And he says, no, they actually were together, and shows her kind of another one, and they're both together. And then he says they were working together against this, and he shows her, and there's the White Walkers with the blue eyes carved on the wall.
On the wall, right. So
now she knows that they're real. Well, she knows at least a little bit more that they're real.
The story of them is more real now because the petroglyphs were actually in this cave. So it was just folklore and word of mouth before, and now there's physical proof that they actually existed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as much as you can get. I mean, it's still kind of folklore, but
right.
She seemed to believe him a little bit more, and he, he's like, kind of, do you believe me now? And she's like, I will give you my armies, and we will fight with you, and we will take out the White Walkers and the undead, if you bend a knee. Here we are with the bend a knee again. So,
Fucking Danny.
um,
Now there was a couple things that happened in that scene when they were in the cave, because it's just John and Danny,
right.
and we've had this big build up finally of the two of them meeting last week.
Yeah.
And there was this very abrasive meeting, but as the episode went along, they actually kind of less abrasive, were more willing to listen to each other thanks to Tyrion. So now we have this scene in the cave where it's just the two of them. Everybody else is Missandei and Davros, and everybody else is outside. There's just the two of them, and she's the one holding the torch, and he's kind of directing her where to go and stuff. So there's two things that happen in that scene where one was something that I kind of found important, and one I had a question on. The one was he grabbed her arm to turn the torch to show the White Walkers. Mm-hmm. That's a level of comfortableness that he has with her, to be able to grab her and say, look, now it may not be nothing, but at least shows, at least for me, it's Game of Thrones. Everything means something. They wouldn't have had that be a miss where they just did it randomly. I think there was something more to that they are much more comfortable with each other, that he was able to grab her arm and not being violent or anything, but kind of a direction, like I'm kind of directing you. And they kind of show that again later where he kind of gives her direction kind of thing. But it was more of a physical thing. It was very subtle. I thought it was a big deal. The other thing that I had was more of a question was, did he draw the White Walkers on the wall?
I don't know.
Because all these other cave drawings and everything are very old, but he's making a point of trying to convince her that the White Walkers are real. And so he's the one who kind of shows her the cave, like, this is what we're going to actually start mining. So now I'm like, did he draw that on the wall to try to trick her into convincing? And then her counter to that was, I'm here with you as long as you bend the knee, that kind of whole conversation. So I just, there was two things in there that probably were a bigger deal to me, but I think everything is a big deal because of Game of Thrones, because everything means something, right?
Right. So she does kind of have a conversation with him about, or another speech to him about, he needs to do this for his kingdom. He's the king now, and he should swallow his pride and save his people instead of refusing to kneel to her. So then everybody shows up to tell Danny that the Unsullied were defeated at Casterly Rock. They don't actually, you never actually hear that conversation, but that's
right.
Tyrion's got this I'm in a lot of trouble kind of look on his face, because he was the reason why they went there. So she, of course, wants to get on her dragons and go
burn everything down.
The red tower,
keep.
the red keep, yeah. And they're, you can't do that. You can't do that. You're the queen. You need to keep yourself safe. And so she turns to John and says, "What should I do?" And he kind of does the reverse speech to her, that your people look up to you because you saved them from being enslaved, and now you're going to turn around and be the exact same type of person and kill ultimately a lot of innocents by burning down King's Landing. So little reverse psychology there on her. So she, apparently agrees for now. So then they cut back to Winterfell, and Brienne and Patrick, when they're practicing, and my husband says he still can't fight.
He cannot.
He has been practicing.
He's getting his ass kicked, like, easily too.
Yeah, for like 2 seasons.
Yeah,
he still hasn't gotten.
He hasn't gotten anything figured out. It's just...
So Arya walks up and she's like, "Oh, I would like you to train me, and
you beat the Hound.
Yeah, I want to be trained by the person that beat the hound. And she's like, well, yeah, okay, but I can't do that, Lady Stark, I can't do that. And she's like, you vowed to protect,
the daughters of Stark.
The daughters, yes, and I'm a daughter, so you should do what I say. And she's like, okay. And so they're she's kind of trying to be gentle with her or whatever, and Arya pulls out Needle, and she's like, oh, that's a nice sword. And she's like, yeah, it is. And she's like, that's a nice dagger, because I forgot that part, when they were with Bran under the tree.
Yes.
Bran gave Arya the
dagger,
the Valerian dagger, and
like very nonchalantly, like he pulled it out and showed it to her and Sansa, and they explained that this is the dagger that was meant. He explains that this is the dagger that was meant to kill me, and he puts it back in the sheath and he hands it to Arya, and Arya is standing there like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
Like, do you really? And he's like, "It has no use for a cripple.
Yeah.
I can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
It needs to go to somebody." And he hands it to her, and she takes it, but it's the dagger that
killed his mom.
And
they attempted to kill him.
And killed it.
And it was all Cersei.
Right.
Cersei was ultimately behind all of that.
Right. So I think, and I screamed out, "Is that the dagger that's going to kill Sansa?"
Yeah, Cersei.
Cersei. So is that this dagger that's going to kill Cersei? And it points that direction, which means it's not the direction that it's supposed to be.
Probably, yeah. So anyway, Bran, points out the dagger, and she's like, "Yeah, that's nice. That's nice too." And so they start to kind of go at it, and Brienne's got this big old claymore, and Arya's got Needle. It's a little like a rapier sword, and they're going at it, and Brienne realizes very quickly that Arya knows what she's doing.
Arya does a lot of the fight with Needle behind her back.
Yeah, she does.
And ducking and moving and jiving and like, yeah.
And she starts to really piss Brienne off. And so Brienne just chest kicks her and knocks her on her butt. And there's a moment of,
oh God, what did I just do?
And then Arya like jumps up and comes back after her. And the whole thing ends with, because Needle gets thrown off to the side.
Yeah.
So she pulls out the dagger, and so the dagger is kind of here at Brienne, and Brienne's got her sword like here at Arya, and then they both just break out in a big smile. And the whole while, this is being watched by Sansa and Littlefinger.
Yeah.
And Sansa's just getting a bigger and bigger grin on her face.
Yes.
She's
My
like,
sister became a badass.
We need to talk.
Yeah.
And Littlefinger has got the plotting face.
So there was two scenes in this episode where Littlefinger had like his, he has his whole, I'm playing out every scenario. Everybody's a winner. Everybody's on my side. Everybody's an enemy. That kind of thing, like you talked about last week. So now that you know that that's his mindset, and he's playing every angle. So there was two scenes this episode where that doesn't work. And the one was with Bran when he said chaos is a ladder.
Yeah.
And Bran learns that, I don't know what Bran is. I can't account for that or whatever.
Littlefinger learns that.
Littlefinger learns that from Bran. And then the scene with Arya and Brienne where Arya's now a new wrinkle in his thought process, that she actually can carry the power. And there's almost a point where he looks at her like, maybe I'm back on the wrong horse.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really think that this isn't a one-horse show. This is going to be
ultimately a
multi-horse show.
Yeah.
I think if you're back in one, you're gonna be in trouble, as we see in the ending scene.
We're into the good stuff yet.
So So there was a scene where Missandei and John and Davos are all talking. It was kind of an interesting scene too. I'm not really sure what the point of that was. They were
almost
Davos is very interested in Missandei's culture and her. He's kind of infatuated with her, I think.
but not like a relationship kind of thing. Like more of he's like trying to learn who she is.
Yeah, maybe.
Like her motivation and stuff, because
Yeah.
she is. I mean, Tyrion is the voice, the hand of the queen, but Missandei is actually the head advisor.
Yeah.
And the more he learns, was a slave who became the head person for the queen. That's a big deal.
Yeah. But he makes this comment about, like they're talking about they don't have bastards where she comes from because they don't have marriage. And, and he's like, can I switch sides? And
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
kind of a...
It was a very interesting
odd
conversation. It was
scene.
almost kind of... there's the two of them talking to Missandei almost like a... not questioning her loyalty, but questioning her motivation to her loyalty.
Yeah.
And actually, does she actually believe that she is actually free? Because they kind of make a point of saying,
Could you get on a ship and
can
leave
you leave
today?
and go to your
Yeah.
homeland,
Yeah.
world? It's fucking sci-fi. Homeland and do it. And she said absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
And she would allow me to do that.
Yeah, and that might have been the point of the scene, was just to kind of give John and ultimately Davos a little more information on kind of the ruler that Dany
Right.
is.
Right. That she does actually care for her people.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Although she's angry that things aren't going her way,
Right.
she does actually care for her people.
Right, because she freed all these slaves and
Right.
stuff. So Theon, they come back to Dragon's Den, and Theon
Hi, Theon.
and John haven't seen each other for a very long time. As a matter of fact, the last time John saw Theon, he wanted to kill him, and
Justifiably so.
But he's since heard about what happened with Theon and Sansa from Sansa. And so Theon kind of, gets off the ship or the boat, and he's like, hey, John, and
I didn't know you were here. What are you doing?
How's it going? And whoa, and John walks up, and you're not really sure if he's gonna hug him or punch him. You don't really know what's gonna happen. John grabs him and pulls him up, and he's.
I don't
like,
think John knew until he grabbed him.
Probably not. And he's like, I heard what you did for Sansa, and that's the only reason I'm not going to kill you.
Right.
So yeah, he's probably pretty conflicted as to what he's going to do. So Theon says, "Well, I came to see the queen," and John says, "She's gone." Oh, where did Dany go?
Sorry, we'll do it this way. Time. So that's like 5 minutes ago, John and Dany and everybody else was on the beach after looking at the dragon glass,
Right.
having this strategic meeting about what we're supposed to be doing, what should really happen, and then we have this scene with John and
Theon.
John and Missandei,
Oh, yeah.
and they have that, and then Theon shows up, and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, she's not here. Like,
Yeah. when did that happen? So we're gonna find out. So then we go back to the outskirts of Highgarden, and Jaime and
the Lannister army,
and the Tullys,
and the Tullys
and Dickon are gathering up the grain, and they've got a big wagon train, headed off for King's Landing with all the grain and everything, and they're getting ready to head out themselves. And Jaime actually has a conversation with Daddy Tully. I need to get his name, about we're spread a little thin.
Yeah.
You're like, something's gonna happen.
They make a point though of saying the gold has made it,
Yes.
and now we have just the grain left.
Right.
And we're spread really thin. Should we
We
loop
took some
back
of the guys with the
around?
gold, and some
Right.
of the guys are still here with the grain.
And if they
Yep.
attack the rear, we can't loop back around to protect them. What are we? What should we do? And Jamie's even like, yeah, we are spread a little thin. Maybe we should bunch up a little bit or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
They
well.
make a point of it.
And then they start to hear something.
What is that?
What is that? And he's shouting at the TV, "It's horses! I hear horses! Horses are coming!"
And it's really like you could kind of hear it in their conversation, but you don't. It's like background, And then whose is it? Braun. Braun is like, everybody shut up.
Yeah.
And Jamie's like, kind of looks at him like, what? Fuck you, He's like, Braun's like, no, shut up, listen. And you hear this low rumble, and it gets louder. And they're at the low point next to, I'm going to say a pond. I won't call it a lake, but it's a pond.
Yeah.
Like watering the horses and stuff like that. And there's a hill on the top, and they can't see past the crest, and all you can hear is the rumble, and the rumble's getting louder.
Yep.
And I'm screaming at the TV, to arms, to arms, to arms. And Jamie's running up and down with the horse. Shields and spears, shields and spears.
And the Dothraki are here. So
in mass, not like a little unit. Like it's almost all of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think Dany feels like she's being picked off little by little, and she needs to come in full force with everything she's got.
She needs a win
left, and show them, you're not all that in a bag of chips. I've got some stuff up my sleeve.
Well,
too.
Tyrion even said earlier, you still have the largest army, even though that the Unsullied are kind of
we
stuck.
don't really know how many Unsullied are left, and then the Iron Grays. We
know at least one boat because it was in the bay.
Yeah, but as far as we know, that's
right.
kind of the only. Yeah, so and then Dany comes over the crest on Drogon, and which is the biggest of her dragons, and they just start taking the whole thing out. Drogon is breathing fire basically on all of the grain. The grain train
that's totally what it was.
Yeah, he's just taking all that out, and the Dothraki are just taking out the armies. And there was a lot of the cinematography and the it wasn't the Battle of the Bastards, but this was pretty big. There's
a shot. So if you know anything about medieval history, you don't want to be at the bottom of a hill when the top of the hill has full cavalry coming down. You just don't. And so the Rocky, is that right? Dothraki are in a full sprint on horses coming down the hill to a very thin shield line, and they take this shot, and I have to go back and look at the scene. But I swear it's like on a GoPro on somebody's head. But it's with the whole unit, the whole cavalry coming down the hill. And you can see the line of shields and the whole unit, the Lancasters at the bottom of the hill. But you can also see all the grain stuff and all the horses coming in. And it's this long shot. It's like 8 or 9 seconds all the way down the hill together. And it's just this beautiful shot just before the commencing of the battle.
Yeah, it was probably a droid or a helicopter.
Yeah, something. It was just a really cool. You're in the thick of the pre-battle rush.
Yeah,
and we're part of a medieval reenactment group, and we don't use horses, but we do have full-on warfare. And there's that moment where there's a silence that happens right before the crunch of the lines, and they kind of showed that a little bit. You could hear the horses, but there's really no sound in that shot. And I was just like, oh, that's amazing. It's an amazing shot. And then all this, and then mayhem ensues.
Carnage. Drogon is just taken out like he'd take out a section and it would basically be an ash statue where the person stood, and then it would just fall away to a pile of dust on the ground, and lots of pyrotechnics, right? So actors running around on fire, which is always kind of scary if you know anything about like the acting, the
stunt stuff,
film, stuff. That's always very scary. And the one guy took his helmet off, and he's already all
melted, and his hair's all bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really good shot.
And so Jamie's like trying to, they shoot a bunch of arrows at Dragon, and okay, that's not gonna little arrows. I mean, basically, he just kind of flew up and showed him his belly. Well, that's all armor.
It's all scale.
So they just bounced off, and um, he's yelling at the TV. Go back to King's Landing. Go back to King's Landing because
regroup there.
Yeah,
it's totally regroup there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of fighting, and Braun's like, we need to shoot it with the giant crossbow thing that they have, and Jamie's like, well, I can't. I have a metal hand, and so Braun's like, fuck, okay, I gotta go do this. So he, there's fire, and there's people trying to kill him, and he loses his money, and he makes a run for it, and he gets to the giant crossbow, ends up shooting one of the bolts. It looked like they had 3 bolts, and he shot one of the bolts into a Dothraki who was coming into the wagon kind of with him, like right behind him. He shot him and begged him to whatever, a wagon behind him, whatever.
Nice catch, by the way.
Yeah. And then they open it up, and so now he's got like 2 bolts left, and starts trying to shoot Dragon, and shoots one, and it goes whizzing by, and so now Dany knows, right? She's like, oh, hey, that wasn't cool.
He had one clean shot.
Yeah.
And that, totally missed.
He missed. So now she knows. So she's telling Dragon, Draconis, or whatever it is she says, to get him to fight. And so he goes back down, and Bronn gets off the last bolt, and you initially don't see where it hits. Because Dragon's mouth was open, so I thought it went into his mouth.
Right.
And he's like spiraling down, and
Dany's holding on, and Tyrion is on the hill, like freaking out. Like, why? Okay, I know he's the battle commander at this point in time, but why is he even there? Kind of thing, and he's just like he's kind of got this look like pull a parachute. I don't know. He's got this look on his face, like do something. He's powerless to watch.
Well, there's all he can do is sit there and watch.
Right.
And then Dragon like pulls up and blasts the whole crossbow. So that's out of play now.
That crossbow. There might be another one.
But they only
showed the one. Right.
So and Bronn like narrowly escapes like 15 times in this battle. So he jumps off and doesn't get burnt. And Dragon lands, and it's in his arm. And I mean, he's had battles like this worse.
Right.
So, that's not gonna stop him, but Dany jumps off and is trying to pull it out.
And I loved her reaction. Like, there was that motherly look. She is the mother of dragons, right? After all, but she has that motherly look where she's like, "Oh, I gotta fix this," and she just jumps right off of him, and goes and grabs it and pulls it. No thought of where she was. She's only worried about him, and that's it.
Yeah.
No thought of anybody else is standing around him.
Yeah.
Either one of them. She's in the line of fire of everything, and she's just. But
that kind of sums up her personality. That she's very much like. Everything is happening around her, but would never actually
happen to her.
Yeah, happen to her because so much has happened to her, and she's, she walks out of fire. So what can you possibly do to me?
Right.
Which may be a downfall, but so Jaime sees that she's trying to pull this out, and he starts riding towards her, and Tyrion from the cliff is like yelling, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Because he's running.
Retreat, you fool, retreat.
He's running straight towards the dragon, and he grabs a spear, and he's going, and Dany and Dragon basically kind of turn around and see him coming at the same time, and Dragon just lets out a ball of fire. So now Jaime's dead. Bronn.
Jaime gets tackled before the fire gets there.
by Bronn. Bronn just.
We think it's Bronn. I don't know if they really show it.
I think it was Bronn.
I'm believing it's Bronn, because Bronn's like, I fucking lost my money and I don't have a castle, so you still owe me.
Right.
But there's this somebody jumps and tackles Jaime off the horse as the fire engulfs them, and they land in the water.
And they sink to the bottom.
And they sink to the bottom because they're in full armor. Roll credits. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm just starting to fall for Jaime.
He's not dead. He's not
He
dead.
can't be dead. He's the one that kills Cersei.
No, I don't think he'll kill Cersei. I think Arya will kill Cersei with the Valyrian dagger.
Now I think Sansa's going to do it with the freaking dagger, because now the dagger's in play.
So, yeah.
A lot of stuff in this episode. One of the things I did, now the 3 of the 4 Stark children are together.
Yes.
There's a shot when Arya is pushing Bran in the wheelchair, and Sansa's kind of walking with him.
Yeah.
There's a moment in there where I can't. Was it Littlefinger was watching them?
I think it was.
No, it was Brienne.
Oh yeah.
Brienne was watching, and there's a moment there where I, for the first time, see the regalness of Sansa.
Yeah.
Like,
being queen suits her.
Right.
Now.
She's this is going to sound really weird, but she's much bigger than Arya. She's much bigger now that Bran's in the chair. She kind of towers over the two of them. She stands very, very, upright and regal looking in the way she moves and acts and says and stuff like that, but she's still a Stark. And so there's times when it was just the 3 of them talking by the tree where you could see that, that sister-brother relationship with all of them kind of thing. And so,
but she's very different than she was the last time she was at Winterfell.
All of them are.
All of them, to a certain extent.
John's not. John's still the same guy.
Sansa the most. Because Sansa was a spoiled-ass brat.
That's true.
And all she wanted was to be married off
to Joffrey.
It didn't have to be Joffrey. She didn't care. I want my prince. I don't want to be stuck here. She was a typical teenage brat.
Right.
I don't want to live here. I want to go off and have my own life. I want to be a queen over there. I want a knight in shining armor to come whisk me off my feet, and my life will be a fairy tale.
Right.
And that is absolutely not what happened.
Right.
I mean, Arya, even when they were still at Winterfell, she had her teacher. I don't remember what her fighter teacher's name was. The one who gave her needle. She was already like, this is not. I'm not that. I'm not Sansa.
Right. She was kind of the tomboy of the group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bran had already lost his legs and was starting to have the visions.
Right.
So they all those guys kind of were who they are now.
Right.
When they were still at Winterfell.
Right.
But Sansa is not. She is completely a different person.
Yeah. And we talked about it last week about, I have a thing for redheads, but so that I'm kind of tuning into her storyline a little bit more, but I think that her storyline has a lot more effect this season than there has been in the past, because of she's now in charge of Winterfell because Jon's gone, and so her growth of, they showed it in the last episode, her teaching, like talking about, why are we not doing this? Mm-hmm. Why are we not checking the armor? Why are we not doing that? And now she was in this episode. It was, now she's the big sister to her, her little sister's back and her little brother's back.
Yeah.
And, although Bran is the, should be the Lord of Winterfell, but he's now, she has this feel of having to take care of him.
Yeah.
Because he can't.
Bran's younger than she is, and she's the oldest other than Jon. She is the oldest out of all of them. But yeah. But
she feels this responsibility. So I'm getting that this season, the story arc, one of the main story arcs is her evolution to the point.
Yep.
Which makes you think that she will end up with the Iron Throne with Littlefinger, which means it won't happen.
Right.
Cinematography in this episode was amazing. Overall, the episode was really, really, really good. This is like, now we've had several. I mean, they haven't been dicking around this year.
It's a short season, so they've got to.
So there's 3 episodes left, and we haven't really even dealt with the White Walkers and the Night King at all. So well, here we go. right? So here we go. And what's going to happen with Jamie and how we going to get the dragon glass
back to Winterfell.
And all that stuff. So
is Jon going to bend a knee?
Did he? That's the one thing she said, bend the knee when they were in the cave. It was the two of them.
That's true.
And he kind of had that moment, and he looked, but then the next cut was them leaving the cave. So you don't know if they actually, if he bent the knee. And even if he did, he could say, I didn't do it because it was just the two of them in the room. They never showed it.
They need to rule Westeros together. She can have the South, and he can have the North.
Right.
Once they get rid of Cersei and the White Walkers and everything.
I'm having a thought that because it's Game of Thrones, that's not what's going to end up happening.
Right.
We'll get Littlefinger end up controlling everything.
Or Tyrion, or
right. He'll be
or Missandei.
Missandei will be like
and Grey Worm.
Grey Worm. I don't know what we're doing. So, what do you guys think of this episode of Game of Thrones called "The Spoils of War"? Let us know what you think. Please like this video and share it with all of your friends who are caught up to date with the Game of Thrones. I don't want to spoil it because there's a lot of shit going on. Please also comment on your thoughts on this episode. Maybe there was something we missed, or maybe you're looking at it from a different angle than we are. Please also follow us on Facebook at the Pop Culture Cult. We're Pop Culture Cult 1 on Instagram, and we're at Pop_Cult1 on Twitter. We're also on Stardust. We're going to do our Stardust for Game of Thrones right now as soon as we're done with this video. Go to the Stardust app on your iOS or Google Play stores. Download the app. It's completely free. Set up your account via Facebook or Twitter. And please go find the Pop Culture Cult first. Like us first, and then like all of your friends or some of our friends, like to the party, schmoes, that kind of thing. And help us build a culture with all of our friends through the Stardust app and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that other stuff. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And until next time, good night now.